So, intro before we get started. So, I came across this article listicles about foods from baby boomers, and thought it'd be a funny idea just to kind of go through them, talk about it, and all that. I'm going to put a link to the article in the description, but this is definitely not sponsored because I'm going to say, like, don't go to the article. Mostly because it's one of those lame sites that are, like, riddled with ads. And the articles, I don't know, some of it feels very stupid as well as I go through these foods that it lists. And the full list of article is 50 gross foods only baby boomers still think are cool. And keep in mind, the keywords is gross because some of these foods aren't actually gross, maybe not the healthiest. And some of them don't even feel like baby boomers food. In a little background, I'm a millennial and I'm a little bit older on the millennial scale, like maybe be considered a geriatric millennial. So I'm practically a baby boomer. So I'm kind of like an expert on this. So anyways, I want to go through this list and have a little fun with it. First on this list is Ambrosia, or Ambrosia fruit salad. And this is actually something I like myself. I actually had an older friend like make this before, and I never heard of it until then. But it's pretty much, I think a lot of people just use like fruit cocktail, marshmallows, shredded coconut, and Cool Whip. And it's very tasty. It's kind of like more of a dessert fruit salad. It feels like it's very easy to make. I'm not sure if it's just because it's old fashioned or sugary, or if you get like the a fruit cocktail with a heavy syrup or whatever. My friend will also add chopped apple and chopped bananas, fresh fruit, so fresh apples and bananas with the fruit cocktail, and it was pretty good. I like it. So I wouldn't really say this gross, maybe old fashioned, but yeah, that's the first one. Next is Bran Cereal, and not a too big fan of this myself. You know, Raisin Bran is good from time to time, but I guess on the article it's like Bran cereal has a lot more sugar than you would expect, so it's like really high in sugar, even though it's high in fiber. And I feel like other cereals came along that have been a little bit more healthier in terms of choices, but I don't know if I would really call Bran cereal gross. Like maybe add like strawberries or raisins to it, but yeah, that's. I guess it is a boomer food because it feels like one of the older cereals, but yeah, that's the second one on the list. Next is Vienna Sausage. And to be honest, I have never in my life had one of these. They always look gross. I think just the idea of having like a hot dog like item from a can, and I don't know, it just seems weird. Like it's like one of the things like to have opinion of food that you never tried, but it definitely feels old fashioned. So I can give the article this that maybe this is a gross baby boomer food. But yeah, they still sell it still on the shelf, so kind of a weird product, but I have never tried it in my life. Next is sardines, and this is another one I never tried. I do like fish and seafood, but I never had sardines. Like I've just seen like the cartoons with the can that you can like peel back, and I don't think I even smelled sardines. I never really been that close, but I don't know. Do you just eat them whole or what? Like I have no idea how to eat sardines. They do have bones. I don't know. So it does sound old fashioned to me. So I guess again, chalking up for the article, like this is another gross baby boomer food. If I don't know, I have no idea how you just eat sardines plain. Do you just like chop them up and put them in a dish or something like that? But yeah, it just seems weird having a can of a bunch of tiny fish that you eat. Next up, tuna casserole. And I think this is more of my personal preference. I don't really like canned tuna that much. I do like fresh tuna, like on sushi and stuff like that. But like canned tuna sandwiches and stuff like that. So this seems maybe gross to me. I don't like casseroles get the flack like being a weird, gross food. Like it just depends. There's so many different things you can do with casseroles, but I guess tuna casserole is kind of a gross boomer food. So maybe I kind of agree with it. It's just more of my taste when it comes to canned tuna and all that. Next, they have listed artificial sweetener, and I'm like, is this really a boomer thing? Like, I don't get why this is on the list and why artificial sweetener is gross because it's meant to imitate sugar, either have less calories or something. So I don't know why the hell this is gross. And it even mentions that stupid rumor about is it aspartame or whatever, that sweetener that they say, oh, it gives you cancer, but there's really no proven link to that. And also say like heart disease and obesity. So I'm not sure if it's really gross, but maybe it's just some misconceptions with artificial sweeteners, and they may have some cons versus pros when it comes to replacing or sugar alternative. Next is a bologna sandwich, and I'm kind of laughing looking at this picture because it looks like there's like maybe like five, six slices of bologna, and like, do people actually eat bologna like that? It's like a full thing of bologna between two slices of bread. Like, as a kid, I remember eating just bologna, like usually like one piece of lunch meat with one piece of cheese, like the old-fashioned Oscar Mayer. All that. So I can't remember the last time I had bologna. I remember trying it again as an adult, and I think I definitely grew out of bologna. It's like I definitely prefer other lunch meats of bologna. Maybe it's a little on a gross scale to me, but I just cracking up at this article just because look at the sandwich. It's like so many slices of bologna. That's too many slices of bologna. That's I wish there was a word that I could use to describe that. That's just crazy. Spam is the next one, and yeah, this one thing. I guess it's a kind of a boomer food because the article mentions like back in World War II, and I guess when it came to like what you want to call it, when rationing and stuff like that too. I'm not sure if that has that kind of history. I remember maybe past couple months I got a can just on a whim, and it's okay. I don't like it all that much, so maybe I give it as a gross food. It's funny because you see like store brands and generic versions of this, but I know it's a really big thing in Hawaii. Like they have like spam sushi and a lot of dishes, so definitely not my favorite. So maybe I can give it a few gross points for spam, but I feel like it's not really like things that only boomers like, especially like how popular it is in Hawaii. Twinkies. Why the hell is this on this list? Like people like snack cakes, people like Twinkies, all that. I know Hostess died and came back and all that. I think they changed it, so I don't think I really like the Hostess snack cakes since they came back. And maybe it's because like old fashioned snack cakes, but I don't know why this would be really considered a boomer thing or why would be gross. Like, yeah, I think this article has like a health agenda and talks like stuff that's like high sugar and stuff like that. So I wouldn't call this gross. And yep, yeah, I don't know why they put Twinkies on this list or why this is included. Brussels sprouts. So, a funny thing, when I was a kid, I never had Brussels sprouts was because you see in like cartoons and TV shows, I always thought they were really, really gross. But as an adult, Brussels sprouts are pretty fucking good. Like, I don't know why this would be on this list as a gross food. I feel like even like in hipster restaurants or like recipes, like include Brussels sprouts and bacon and cheese, whatever. That I do have to give it to one thing in the article because it does mention one of the things about preparing Brussels sprouts. I guess it's kind of very old fashioned to boil them, which kind of leaches off the flavor and gives the smell. So I feel like it's not just necessarily about Brussels sprouts, but how you cook them. I guess it's like, hey, cook them in the oven. Or I usually get like one of the steamer bags because I get the pre-frozen ones. And I'm sure if you like have one of the steamer pots or whatever, but basically boiled Brussels sprouts are gross, but they are so fucking delicious. Okay, next up is creamed corn, and this one, like, I guess I can kind of see it, but I wouldn't really call it gross because I remember having creamed corn before. I can't remember if I think I got it by accident when I was shopping, I wasn't looking, or if it's something got like from a neighbor or something like that, like whatever. So I know I at least tried it recently, and it's not really bad. I think it's just not my preferred way to have corn, just because it's a little sloppy. I prefer either fresh corn kernels or corn on the cob. I'm not sure why. It's like, again, I feel like it's like health wise. This article has that little agenda, and one thing I like when talked about cream vegetables is cream spinach is really good. I do like that, but cream corn, I don't think it's gross. I don't think it's cool, so I guess it has that for it. But yeah, cream corn is on this list. Okay, liver is the next one, and yeah, I'll give it to this article. Like, I find it so weird to eat organs of another animal, and I think it's really only like liver. I think some like I know it's really popular in the United States, but I heard like I feel like I watched that show on the Food Network Chop and had like heart of like an animal, maybe in brain. I'm not sure if that's really popular. Like, who eats different organs? I just think that just seems weird to eat an organ. But I think like you still see liver sold in the grocery store, so I think out of all the organs, the liver is the one to go for. I think the only reason I really heard of this is that one old episode of Doug on Nickelodeon. I think his grandma makes liver and onions, and he thinks it's the grossest thing, and then he actually tries it and he likes it. So I'm not sure if it's one of those things that you might like it if you try it, but it just seems gross to me. But I will give a little tidbit that a job before my boss actually ordered uh, Rocky Mountain oysters, I believe, and that's like bull testicles, and it would like chopped in slices and fried. And I actually tried that, so I actually ate bull testicles, and it's actually pretty good. So maybe I like liver, but it just seems just weird. I think the weird factor is what really puts me off. Next is fruitcake, and I'm not sure if there's like good fruitcake or what, but it's just like every Christmas movie or Christmas special talks about how gross fruitcake is. I'm not sure if it really is that gross, so maybe I'll give it to the list for having fruitcake on it, just because it's kind of the butt of all jokes. It seems like it always has those real fruits, like those green cherries, and I don't really like nuts too much. I think that's what put me off, but I feel like it'd make a decent fruit cake that's good, because it's like spice cake and fruit, which doesn't sound like a bad combination, but maybe just like the old-fashioned recipe is just like really outdated. I don't know. Next is chicken pot pie, and this is another one like, what the hell is this on this list? Like, chicken pot pie isn't gross, it's delicious. I'm guilty of buying those Marie Calendar ones from time to time, just pop in the microwave. That's fine. And it's like meat, vegetables, kind of like a gravy, a soupy gravy, and pie crust, so I don't see why this is gross. I feel like this is an attack on me and my eating habits, so I definitely like, I guess, old-fashioned, but definitely not a gross food. Next is egg salad. And this one, I like eggs, but I don't like egg salad. Maybe because of like the mayo and or Miracle Whip or however you make it. So I don't like a lot of like salad foods when it comes to like egg salad, pasta salad, potato salad. So this is gross to me, but I feel like it's still popular. People still like it. It's like one of those things you see in a grocery store. It's like, oh, I'll just add this for the picnic or a potluck or stuff like that. So I don't see why this is like, oh, an old fashioned boomer food. Like, we still eat this today. People love it. I don't love it, but gross to me, but I don't think overall it's a gross food. Processed cheese. And this is like, I don't get why this is on the list either. Again, like the health agenda they have in this article. So it's more like it's overly processed food. Maybe the fact that it's listed as cheese product, not like cheese. So I like the Kraft singles. I think they still are perfectly fine. Sometimes if I find myself, I like to get actual like cheese, whether it be like a brand name or a generic version that the store has. So I kind of feel like I'm personally straying away from these processed cheese slices, but I don't think they're gross, and I think it's still popular. Maybe because it's also on the cheaper side as well. So, and the article also mentions again maybe being how each slice is wrapped in plastic, so they have like a little like waste in terms of the packaging of the slices, but. Yeah, don't really get it. Next is Spaghettios, and I don't think it's gross. I feel like it's not like the best thing to eat taste-wise, but I'm guilty of getting Spaghettios from time to time if I want something easy and all that. And I would have to say Spaghettios with the Franks. That's the best. That's the GOAT when it comes to Spaghettios. So you comment below. Because the meatballs are good too. I feel like if it's just Spaghettios, I'm like, it could use some flavor, but I wouldn't really call it gross, but maybe it's kind of like just like this is like old fashioned canned pasta. Maybe it's a boomer food. I don't know. Like I feel like boomer like a lot of like canned food they can stock in a bomb shelter or something like that. Maybe that's why this article has some food items like this. Next up is ice milk, and I have never in my life heard of ice milk until reading this article. But it seems like it's like another version of ice cream. For the article says like maybe like packaged as low fat and cheaper, like more cheaper made. But I think it's just like inferior a version of ice cream, like they kind of overload with sugar to make up for it. But I never heard of ice milk. I guess it would be okay. Like I don't see it really being gross if it's like even a knockoff version of ice cream. But if you learn anything in this video, ice milk exists. Next is cream of wheat, and I don't get this either. I feel like it's not my favorite. Like usually when it comes to like these kind of bowls of whatever, usually it's oatmeal is like my thing of choice. But I guess the article calls it like glorified porridge. But I don't think I really tried this much. I think maybe once or twice as a kid, because I remember my older sister would like that too. And like it's like a good thing, like you can add like in the picture like banana slices and blueberries or other fruits. And that's another funny thing about this article is that all the pictures are pretty decent, like interpretations of these foods. So it's not like it's gross looking pictures. So I don't know, maybe just old fashioned, but not necessarily gross. Next one, grits, and again another kind of old fashioned food. And I feel like this one I see a lot. Like again, I watch a Food Network from time to time, and a lot of times they will like talk about doing grits, like more like a Southern cuisine kind of stuff, like shrimp and grits and all that. So I wouldn't really call it gross. It just seems old fashioned. Again, it talks about being like creamed and all that. So yeah, it's just kind of another weird item. I feel like this kind of lists old fashioned foods just to put them on the list, even though it's not like what boomers think are cool or were the gross. But yeah, that's the grits for you. Next up is prunes, and okay, I can kind of give it to. I want to call prunes necessarily gross, but they're pretty much dried plums. And not to talk too much about my childhood, but I remember in the town we grew up in, we would have a big plant that produced a lot of the prunes or dried plums. And we had this festival that was called the Prune Festival. So it was kind of like a fruit festival that we had every year. But the city changed the name of it because they felt like prune was too of an unappealing word. So they changed it to dried plums. So it was a dried plum festival. So just a little fun tidbit, and maybe you can guess where I grew up based on that. Next, lima beans. And I guess I can give it to this article for being a gross boomer food. I never really tried lima beans myself. I maybe once or twice. Like I think they maybe do a little bit more on a tougher side. I go for like your traditional baked beans or black beans or whatever. So I guess maybe they're gross, but I don't know. I'm clueless when it comes to lima beans, I guess. Next, oatmeal raisin cookies. And no, I don't get this. Like, it would take a lot for a cookie to be considered gross. I know people like make that joke, like, oh, they're not chocolate chips, like they're deceiving you because it's raisin. But raisin cookies are pretty good. Like, I still like them. It's old fashioned, but still a good one. And all that. So, and funny, the article even mentions like you can't pass it off to the dog because raisins are bad for them, are toxic to dogs. But you shouldn't be giving your dog like cookies and desserts and stuff like that, even if it's a chocolate. But I'll give you a pro tip. You might be able to find a recipe or just add chocolate chips and raisins to do chocolate raisin cookies with oatmeal, however you want to make it. But I don't see why oatmeal raisin cookies would be considered gross or just like a cool thing for boomers. Okay, and next on this list is fish sticks. And again, this is another one I don't get. I don't think it's gross. Maybe because it's like processed, battered, and fried. Like, again, like health reasons why these would be considered gross. But I don't know, I always felt like it was a kid's food. So you always see like in the kids like frozen meals. And I'm guilty of, eating fish sticks and stuff like that too. I thought I kind of more personally prefer like the frozen fillets or whatever. But I don't get it. Like, I feel like this is an attack on me, but yeah. It even says like the article says like dump it a box in the trash because it's not mozzarella sticks or whatever. But yeah, I think it's just pollock is the fish that they use, but I don't see why fish sticks would be considered gross. Next is tapioca pudding, and yeah, I can say that it's definitely not my favorite pudding, but it's decent. It's good. I think if you want something different, it's a pudding to go to. So I wouldn't really call it gross, but maybe old fashioned. So maybe it's kind of like a boomer pudding, but whatever. I don't get this one either. And this one I really don't get, cornbread. Like, why is cornbread on this list? Like, it's a good southern food or any kind of food. Everyone likes cornbread. I really like the sweeter cornbread, like if a recipe adds a little extra sugar to the mix. But I remember having like cornbread muffins and get a little strawberry jam. Now that's my jam. It's like cornbread with strawberry jelly. That would be the best. Maybe because it's like old fashioned, like popularized during the Civil War is what it says in the article. But so maybe like boomer roots, but not a gross food. We love our cornbread. Limburger cheese, the next one, and I never really had it, and I do like my cheeses. It looks fine. I guess it has like a stinky smell, so I don't really have much to say with this cheese because I have no experience with it. So, is it a boomer thing or is it whatever? But limburger cheese, I guess. Next is shepherd's pie, and this is another one like I don't get. Like it's good food. It's kind of similar to the chicken pot pie because it's pretty much the same thing. Usually a ground meat with veggies and then kind of like maybe like a gravy sauce, and then mashed potatoes on top with cheese. That's a good way to put it. So I've even seen like even like frozen versions of it. Even have a pub near me, like an Irish pub like restaurant, and they have it on the menu, which it's really good and all that. So I don't get it. I think also like a fun fact. I think originally like true shepherd's pie uses ground lamb, and if you use ground beef, it's called cottage pie. But just look it up on Wikipedia. I think generally like it can be in ground meat and be still called shepherd's pie, but a very good dish. I like it, so I don't know why it's on this list being labeled as gross. Okay, and this is one of weird. Like this article also has some items that aren't actually food, and it is mentions Crackle Barrel, the restaurant, and it's fine. It's kind of old fashioned chain restaurant, but I always like the food there and all that. So I just like looking at it doesn't really say much about the food itself. Like maybe just rag on the restaurant being like old fashioned, old timey. So maybe it has like a boomer vibe to it, being an old country like restaurant. But I don't get why it's labeled as gross, and I like it. I don't know if other people these days like Crackle Barrel as much. I'm not sure what the company does in terms of politics or anything like that, but I don't see why it would be considered gross or uncool. Rice pudding. So this is like another pudding they have on a list, and I think it's fine. Like I don't see why rice pudding is gross. Again, maybe it's because like sugar and stuff like that. Although I like to add a little cinnamon to the rice pudding. Yeah, again, it's like one of those things like just have something different instead of always having a chocolate pudding. So I would say rice pudding is above tapioca, but definitely not gross. Condensed soup, and I don't know. Again, this might just have to do with like processed food or all that because I'm not sure if like condensed soups usually have higher sodium, although they have like the lower sodium versions of it too that they make. But I'm guilty of still eating condensed soup, like the old-fashioned chicken noodle, having that with a grilled cheese sandwich. I don't like tomato soup myself as well, but that's always a classic too. So don't think it's gross, and always always good to have. Even if you want something simple like soup and sandwich is always a little simple thing I like to make at home. Meatloaf. Again, this is another one like why is this on this list? Like maybe it's an old-fashioned dish, but it's still good as ground meat. It's pretty much just like a loaf of ground meat seasoned well. I actually like making meatloaf myself because I feel like it's very simple. I think just the prep work of mixing, like I get the meatloaf mix, crack an egg, I think a little milk and breadcrumbs. But yeah, it's a fun dish because you usually can still have plenty of leftovers to eat during the week and make meatloaf sandwiches. I'm not sure why. It's just because like it's a dumb idea. It's like a square mold of meat, but it's good, and I don't know why this is on a list. Like again, it might be old-fashioned boomer-like, but it's still a good dish in my opinion. Next one is Watergate salad. This is another item I never heard of before seeing this list. And the article mentions it like the Ambrosia salad, like the fruit salad from the beginning of the article. But I guess this one, the ingredients is like pistachio pudding, whipped cream topping, like whipped canned pineapple nuts. So it seems like very similar to the Ambrosia, but instead of like fruit cocktail or fruit, it's pistachio pudding. And I personally don't care for pistachio. So look at this, like it seems good, it's just not for me. But I don't know, maybe it's like, again, this article, like when it comes to like stuff with a lot of sugar and stuff like that too. But never heard of that, but it seems good. I've never heard, again, might be something cool to see at restaurants or whatever people try, but this is a thing. If you learn about a new food item today, Watergate salad. And fruit cocktails on this list. So again, I can get like when it comes to canned fruit, some of them have like the heavy syrup, maybe have like more sugar and not as healthy. Although a lot of them have like water too, or whatever, or juices. I think more juices is the more appropriate one. But I do have to mention the stupid thing about this article. The picture, this is a picture from the article, and it looks like a legitimate fruit salad. Like I never seen fruit cocktail with sliced bananas, kiwis, raspberries. So Whoever made this article, this is definitely not fruit cocktail. So it looks like a really appetizing fruit salad. So I don't know why they put this picture in this article. But again, fruit cocktail is not something I really care for. Like, again, using it for Ambrosia salad is probably the main thing I will get it. And I know they always have fruit cups, and fruit cups are pretty much just fruit cocktail. Again, don't see why it would be considered gross. And I just think this article is stupid for having this picture for a fruit cocktail. Next, Werther's Originals. And I think this is getting a bad rap. I know this is like your old-fashioned grandma food. Oh, it's candy, more like caramel candy that grandma would always have. And even my grandma had that, so. But it's just a caramel candy. It's a hard caramel candy, and I don't think anything's really gross. Like maybe the sugar and being hard, but I'm really liking these. I still see them in stores. I was almost tempted to get them at the 99-cent store and all that, but I don't see why it's gross. It just has that really old-fashioned connotation with it. But yeah, it can't be as bad as any other candy out there. So yeah, there's that. And then another one, margarine. Like, I don't know why this is on the list. Like, I don't see how it can be any worse than like butter or anything like that. I'm sure there's like better alternatives out there, but I don't know why margarine is like a old-fashioned, like what they're calling boomer and gross. So I don't know why margarine's on this list. I forget what I think what I buy is considered margarine. I get the crunchy crock usually. Like I like the softer spread versus like the hard butter sticks. But yeah, I don't know why this is on the list. Canned pasta, and like this list already had Spaghettios, so they kind of like singled Spaghettios out, but then they come back for canned pasta, and I get it. It's not like the best food. Like I prefer making fresh pasta, or at least from a box in terms of like the dry pasta. Sometimes I'd be guilty to get like the Chef Boyardee ravioli just because it's cheap and easy. I feel like, again, like they had like old-fashioned foods that can... since this was invented in 1965 and more of a kid's food, but I wouldn't really call it disgusting, maybe not the best. And if you want good ravioli, you can make better ravioli than this. But yeah, canned pasta. Next, Miracle Whip. And I don't really care for like whipped dressings or mayonnaise. I talked about it a while back on a podcast, but yeah, and again, I don't see why this would be considered gross or to others. Like it's maybe a little gross to me, but others, and it says this is actually invented in 1930s, but it's still popular today. But I feel like there was a while back, maybe a couple years or long ago, like was it a situation or somebody from Jersey Shore and a Miracle Whip commercial, so look, it's still popular and all that. Next is Jello Salad, and I guess it's kind of old-fashioned, but Jello Salad is pretty good. Like I remember my mom would make that a lot, like for Thanksgiving or Christmas dinners and stuff like that. But it's pretty much just a Jello mold with fruit in it, so I don't see why that'd be gross. It's just Jello with fruit. I guess some people put marshmallows, but one thing my mom would do is she would add Cool Whip to the Jello mix to give it a really good creamy like fluffiness to Jello. So it's be similar to this. Like my favorite one she would do would be strawberry Jello, and she put banana slices and crushed pineapple. I don't think she put strawberries in it. I think maybe she did, but also the Whip. So my mom's strawberry banana Jello salad was really, really good. I got to ask her to make that next time I visit. But yeah, kind of old-fashioned, but definitely not gross in my opinion. Okay, and here's a gross one in my opinion. Aspics. It has the word ass in it, so you know it's gross, but I think I first heard this like an episode of American Dad a while back, but I don't know who the hell came up with this concept, but it's pretty much getting unflavored gelatin and putting these like savory foods like meats, and I'm sure if you do stuff like potatoes like you see in this picture, I think it's like carrot and broccoli as well. But it's like putting, instead of having a plate of a dish, you like mold it into one little thing. And maybe people thought it was fancy. I was because it's hard to think of gelatin being used for savory foods because you always think of like sweets and desserts when it comes to Jello. But yeah, I guess unflavored gelatin is a thing, and aspics is, yeah. So this is one thing I'll give this article, that aspic does seem like a gross boomer food. Bud Light. I don't know why the hell this is on the list. I don't know why light beer would be considered a boomer item or thing. I think this again a stupid thing in the article, so I don't know why Bud Light's on the list, but it is. Blue cheese, and this one I can agree with this because I think it's gross. And this one is actually a cheese I tried. Like I remember a while back at work, like we had like the like it's like a little mini mart or like a bodega we can buy stuff like buffalo wrap. So I got that with buffalo chicken, and like it has blue cheese. I'm like I'll still try eating it, and they went I can't. So apparently people still really like blue cheese, so I would definitely say it's gross, but not gross to everyone. I guess it's a boomer food, but I don't know. I just don't like it. Fat-free whipped cream. Again, I think it's stupid that it's on a list. It said it was made in 1970, or when it says the government began promoting a low-fat diet. So maybe that's why it's kind of on this list for being like the trend to kind of make like lower fat foods, all that. But yeah, I like whipped cream, and I don't see why not, if you get fat free or like a lower calorie one, why that's not any gross or anything like that. Plain toast, and again, this is I guess stupid, and I don't know who the hell just eats plain toast. Like if you eat plain toast, I guess that's fine, but have some butters, have some jelly, some jam, maybe a little butter and cinnamon sugar. So I just think it's weird to eat toast without anything on it, just plain. So everyone would call it gross, this weird, and maybe it's kind of old-fashioned to eat plain toast, like to save things. I think the article even mentions like I guess a breakfast thing for breaders to put beans on toast, like toast and beans. That sounds good too. So it's like not really a gross food, just kind of a weird choice not to put anything on your toast. Wonder Bread. I don't know why it's maybe picking on this brand or anything like that. And I know like some of those bread you buy might have more sugar than it should. Maybe have like not the best for you in terms of other choices for bread. Again, I don't think it's gross. Again, the health agenda I think this article has is just poking out these little food items, but I don't think Wonder Bread's gross. I kind of even like the design and packaging and color, but yeah, it's on the list. Mrs. Dash. Again, I don't know why this is on the list either. It's just a blend of spices, so I don't see why. Like maybe some of the blends might have higher salt and sodium and all that, but I don't know why you would think Mrs. Dash is gross. Like I usually get the cheap spices to just kind of like put a this and that, so I usually don't buy the blends myself just because. But looking at the ingredients that the article has, it seems fine. I don't know why this would be considered gross. Buffets. So, again, this article has like some weird choices for the list, and I don't know if buffets would be considered gross. I guess it kind of depends on the buffet you go to. It's usually a lot of them are good about changing out food, not to have old food sit out there. And then, of course, with recent events and pandemics, you always worry about germs and stuff like that. But I think that's been improved and all that. So I think they're good. I think the worst experience I had with buffets is overeating. And it also mentions like avoid seafood, and I'm not sure because sometimes I look at fish and stuff too, usually like the fried shrimp or whatever. But yeah, I don't quite get it. This one is stupid. Soda. I don't see why this is like a boomer gross food. People still drink soda. We have soda every day, at least for me. In high levels of sugar, I personally go for the diet soda myself. Probably like maybe not the best choice alternative for soda, but I don't see why soda in general would be considered gross. So I think this they put it on the article just to kind of have that like again that health agenda and stuff like that, saying soda is bad for you because yeah it is, but it's not gross. Next is buttermints. I try to think if I had these before, like maybe in some like a restaurant where they have like a dinner mint that's packaged individually, or kind of like a chalky mint, if I can remember. So I don't know if it's really gross. Like it's really hard for a mint to be gross. I think it's old fashioned. I guess it's like butter, salt, and pepper and oil and sugar. So I don't see why it's bad than or gross compared to other candy or other mints, but I just think it's like they wanted to put an old fashioned item on the list. This last one, Meatpate, and I can maybe give it his article like it does look gross, like it looks like cat food or dog food and all that. So it doesn't look appetizing. Although it kind of feels like it has that higher end kind of um, I don't know, like deal with it. Um, so I guess it's kind of like old fashioned. I never really see this anymore. Again, the only time I really heard of pate, like actually being eaten by people, is that one season of American Horror Story with a hotel. Because it's funny because I think it's like some really uptight, like whatever customers, and then what they do is like give them cat food instead, and they eat it like it's pate. So I think just because of the appeal to it, that looks like cat food is just gross. I don't think I ever tried that, but yeah, and that's the last item on the list. Thanks so much for watching this video. So that'll be the end of it. Just want to do a little something different. I kind of have fun with some of these stupid listicles and doing some of my commentary of it. Again, the link for the article is in the description. Honestly, don't bother with it. It's just kind of a stupid site loaded with ads. So hopefully this was an entertaining way to present it. Let me know in the comments below what you think of these foods listed, if there's other old-fashioned boomer foods that you think are gross. And again, the best way to support me is to like, comment, and subscribe. So social links are in the description as well. And thank you for your time.